Thank you, mate. When I was a child, I was a very naughty boy. Laugh already, that's good. It all started at nursery. There was a Wendy house, as all good stories start with. And unfortunately, on this Wendy house, there were no rules. So I set upon a journey of making some rules for this Wendy house. Unfortunately, there was one boy that didn't respect my authority. And so I threw him off the top of said Wendy house. The teachers didn't laugh. Needless to say, I got in a lot of trouble. Skip forward a few years, and we come to high school. At high school, I became even more naughty. I got in a lot of fights. I struggled to make meaningful friendships, and I didn't have a great time. Skip forward even further in time, and we come to weddings. Now, I detest weddings. The ceremony is fine-ish, but the hanging around, the small talk, the not knowing if you're in photos, the then being told you are in photos, the not knowing who's on your table, the then finding out who's on your table and realizing you have nothing in common with them. All of them is awful. Sorry if you're in the audience and I've been to your wedding, but I probably... Then we skip forward a few more years, and my mental health took a bit of a decline. So I reached out for some help, and the first therapist I spoke to said to me, "Have you considered you might be autistic?" And I hadn't, but I read loads about it, and I started the journey of diagnosis. Shortly after, I was confirmed as autistic, or autistic spectrum disorder. So why am I telling you all this? With that diagnosis, my story changed. I was no longer just a naughty child. I was someone that could have done with a bit more help. I'm James Dempster, and today I'm going to talk to you about the power of storytelling and how it's currently under threat. Stories began round campfires. It was how we made sense of the world. We would sit round campfires, sharing stories, talking about threats, and it's how we developed our history, culture, and values. From the epics of Gilgamesh, which I have to admit I haven't read, but I understand it's a story of one man's refusal to die. I will read it. To the parables of Jesus, which, whether or not you're a believer, those stories have stood the test of time and are passed down from generation to generation. But why do stories captivate us so much? Psychologists tell us that the part of the brain that lights up when we experience action is the same part of the brain that lights up when we read about the action, or indeed are told about it. During COVID, my eldest son, who's here today, 10 years old, he was old enough to understand that something was wrong with COVID, but not old enough to comprehend why he couldn't do certain things and why he couldn't see friends and have all the fun that he was having before. So we bought him a book that told him the first-person story of another boy experiencing COVID, and it really helped him make sense of the world and understand why he wasn't allowed to do certain things. Unfortunately, it became a family favorite, and we had to read it every night during COVID. So one of those things. Now, who's this guy? He might look like a barista from Brighton. Pretty sure he served me my flat white this morning as well. But he's actually Homer. Has anyone read Homer? Yes, brilliant. If you've not read the Iliad or the Odyssey, I suggest you go and read it. And if you don't want to read it, read the Stephen Fry version because he's brilliant and makes really good sense of the story. The Iliad is the story of war, of one woman who was taken from Greece to Troy and the battle that ensued to bring her back home. The Odyssey is the story of a soldier and his journey back from Troy to Greece, taking part with sea nymphs, mermaids, and all kinds of fantastical creatures. But it's not because of gods and heroes that this story has stood the test of time. It's because of the human emotion, the betrayal, the love, the loss, the friendship, and all the great things that great storytellers have. This guy looks more like an open mic night poet to me. But it's Shakespeare. Shakespeare turned storytelling into an absolute art form, engaging audiences of all ages through his plethora of works. He shone a light on the darkest elements of the human psyche and illuminated its brightest moments. But what makes a compelling story? There are 4 elements to a compelling story: character, plot, conflict, and resolution. Character. The more flawed a character is, the more we identify with it, and the more we're likely to see parts of ourselves in that person. Plot. The plot is a vehicle to take that character on a journey and to show us what they're made of. Conflict. Who doesn't love a bit of conflict? It's why EastEnders is still so popular today, and why up until recently I was forced to watch it 4 times a week. And then resolution. Who doesn't love a happy ending, or indeed a sad ending? But the resolution needs to be satisfying, surprising, and entertaining. And now today. Today, anyone with a smartphone can tell a story. For better or worse, it's democratized storytelling. Whether you're a consumer or a brand, storytelling is no longer a nice to have, but a must have. If we think about short-form content and short-form storytelling, we all look forward to the John Lewis Christmas advert. Yeah? Kind of, okay. Well, I do. And it's not just an advert for selling products. It's a motive, it takes us on a journey, and it makes us think about Christmas in a lovely way. Longer form content, Patagonia. We all know Patagonia? Yeah. They've taught us about the fact that retail doesn't have to be bad for the planet. And they've done that over years and years, and it's really engaged with lots of people. So on to social media. Social media, I'm concerned that we chase likes more than true storytelling. Social should still connect, entertain, and educate. It should still take us on a journey. It shouldn't be just about chasing likes. I don't know how many people have seen this advert, this video, but it's particularly engaging. If you've not seen it, it's on YouTube. It's brought by Norwich City FC, and it's 2 minutes 27 that is well worth watching. Agreed. The 2 people, the one on the right, the smiley chap, and the one on the left, who, as the story goes on, he becomes more and more pensive, more introverted, and sadder as the story goes on. Unfortunately, we skip forward in the 2 minutes, and one of the people is no longer there. We're led to believe he's committed suicide. But it's not the one that you expect. It's the smiley, happy one. Now, as well as being autistic, I'm bipolar, and I knew all too well the signs of being smiley all the time and putting a face on. So when I saw this video, I felt seen and I felt heard, and it was a really good example of how storytelling, even over 2 minutes, can be incredibly powerful and takes people on a journey. And now the biggest threat, TikTok. I hate TikTok. Brilliant. Oh, there wasn't even a clap factored into that bit, so that's great. It might surprise you as a digital marketeer that I hate TikTok, but I hate every part of it. It takes really complex ideas and puts it into the most base, simple form. It dumbs down stories. It removes the part of stories that's engaging. It makes the profound mundane. And much to my children's disappointment, I can't do a single one of the dances. There's also a huge lack of reflection. When we look back at the epics and how storytelling evolved, we would sit with the story, we would digest it, we would enjoy it, we would reflect on it. Now it's simply next, 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 next. There's no time for reflection. My other concern with it is the spread of misinformation. We've seen stories that change public opinion, change buyer behavior, and even influence elections. But there is 3 ways in which we can curb the spread of misinformation. The first one is to critically evaluate the content that we're served. The second is to fact check. Is the mainstream media talking about it? Granted, they have their faults, but there's a good chance if they have, they've fact-checked it already. And the third one is really sit with the story and think, is my comment, like, or share going to add any value to this? If it's not, I'd suggest you leave it well alone. Stories are much more than a sequence of events. My story is much more than my recent diagnosis. As a marketeer, I tell stories on behalf of my clients. As a chair of governors at a primary school, I amplify the good work that the school does. And as a football coach, I hope to be part of my children's stories as they grow up. So in summary, stories should have character, plot, conflict, and resolution. We should learn from the master storytellers and really think about telling stories that have more impact. I firmly believe there's a challenge and an opportunity in the world we currently live in. So embrace the tools that we currently have, but not forsaking what makes great stories that bind us, teach us, and remind us of our shared humanity. Thank you very much.